My name is Selena.
And my name's Theoni, and you are listening to Piping Hot. Alrighty. Buckle up, folks. It's time to talk about secrets.
I'm so
First of all,
excited.
I'm moving my tea because I need to have more arm space because I'm Greek. I talk with my hands a lot. So first off, it's very important to just recognize how much of a bop this song is. I mean, it is so good. The minute it hits, like just the musicality of it the whole way through, like is so cool. And like in the very last chorus, when it goes like halftime with the drums,
Yes.
I think I'm just like, yes, yes, yeah. It's so good. It's
Yes.
so good. And just throughout it, like the instruments he does, and like I don't know why, for you very musical people, you will know what I'm talking about, and I'm sure you love it. But the chords in the background, like the main chords, the second one he does, it's almost like a little like dissonant, the chord. And I was like, wow, you're brilliant. It's beautiful. I'm obsessed. So just to get into it, I have a couple random things. So the first random thing, did you know that Sabrina's sister, Sarah Carpenter, has CD credits for creative direction on the song?
Yes. And I thought that was crazy because again, if you watch the video, that girl is blonde. But there's like all of this like
Yes.
discourse around it because it's like, well, Sabrina's sister was a creative director on it. So it's like
Mhm.
I I just think it's so interesting and I like
Yes.
can't wait to hear your thoughts on it.
I'm going to go through it. So, you know how driver's license says, because you were so excited for me to finally drive up to your house?
Yes. I know where you're going with
Literally,
this.
the first line is talking about Joshua pulling into a literal driveway of a house. Like, okay, here's the thing. I thought because of the girl in the music video with her blonde hair, I thought this was going to be the song about Sabrina. After like dissecting it, I don't think it's about Sabrina at all. Like at all. I think this is 100% about Olivia. Like
And again,
it's
too, I
crazy.
think they purposely did that, the creative direction of making her
Mhm.
blonde to make us all think that it was going to be about Sabrina. But
Yep.
if you look at the lyrics, it like definitely is toward
Yeah.
Olivia, you know?
Oh, 100%. Okay, so there's this one lyric in the first verse that maybe you can give me your thoughts because I had a lot of my whole note about it was like question marks. So it says, swore that you only had a crush. You told me that you would cut him off. This hints at someone being unfaithful to him or lying to him or something. And I was a bit confused because that's not necessarily something that had been a part of like the whole narrative of this whole situation before. Like, when did it become a thing that Joshua might have been cheated on? So I was a bit confused. Like, did Sabrina cheat on him? Did Olivia? Um, because there were rumors that he cheated on Olivia with Sabrina. So I don't know what the real story is there.
It's so interesting that you bring that up because I have been mulling over that fact for so long because it's I think in Crisis he did a great job of like laying out some like really good feelings that are pretty like solid in how he felt during the
Sure.
relationship, but in Secrets it's so vague where I'm like, dude, I don't can you just tell me like please? Like
Yeah.
I just I don't know because I don't want to jump to the second verse, but there is a little tidbit in that verse as well that kind of hints to the same thing of like, oh, maybe he was
Yes.
being cheated on. And like it's interesting because like that was the first time that I heard that narrative of like, oh, did did something else like really funky happen in this like relationship that like we're not getting the full picture on? Because like to be honest, I would have never thought that like any cheating would have been happening, you know?
No, and I didn't think so either, but I think yeah, I think there's a lot more to the story. And I think that just is very evident by the way that, like, and I'll talk about this more later and like throughout, but Joshua seems to be really blindsided by everything that Olivia said. And so I think that between how angry Olivia was and like heartbroken and all those things, and then Joshua being really confused about where maybe that anger is coming from and what went so wrong, I think there's way more than we'll ever understand. And I think it just like points to that.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree.
So basically, in the chorus, he says, like, even though he knows all this start that's going on that we're not aware of, he's not going to say anything, but other people know too, you know? And okay, so I wrote a note about one of the people who definitely knows like what's going on is Matt Cornett, who plays EJ in High School Musical, the musical, the series, because okay. So there was a Sunset Drive podcast that Matt was on, and he said he basically, at the end of this podcast, he was talking about how he said he knew people in a toxic relationship, but his friend didn't see that and said that his friend really loved this person. And Matt tried to tell his friend that if people are telling you that it's not a good relationship, that you need to listen to them and things like that. And so when Joshua seemed so surprised by everything that Olivia did and said, I'm thinking that maybe Olivia was the friend who didn't say something because she was afraid. And then that turned into like anger on her part. So she wasn't talking about what was bothering her. And then do you know what I'm trying to say? I think I just jumbled over
Yes.
my words.
No, no, I'm
Anyways,
following.
I'm really bad at talking sometimes. Good thing we're doing a podcast. Anyways, thoughts?
I think that's so interesting. I think you might have mentioned that podcast that Matt did. I am like the last time that we hung out or whatever. I don't remember, but I think that's so interesting. I definitely agree that I feel like out of the cast, I think Joshua and Matt would be, I don't know, quote unquote, the closest, right? Because, like, I
Mhm.
think Matt is a little older. I think he's our age, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
which like, hey, hey, Matt.
Oh my gosh.
Go ahead.
You're
What were you
shooting
gonna
your
say?
shot right now.
Yeah. I mean, he's so cute.
He's
Okay,
super
go
cute.
ahead.
Okay. But yeah, no, I agree that I think I don't but again too, coming from Matt's perspective, you can only do so much as a friend, you know?
Yes,
So
of
it's
course.
so hard to be a bystander, and I think I don't know, whatever Matt said in that podcast, I think he did his best to I don't know,
Yeah.
maybe protect Joshua from whatever happened, you know?
Mhm.
But I think Joshua was definitely blindsided, and I think it might be shown a lot more in the song Secrets.
Yes, 100%. Okay, so I have to mention the second verse because I just think the second verse is like so spicy. So he starts out saying, "Good for you for fooling everyone." He literally says, "Good for you." Anyways, I mean, come on. Not that that's not like a common phrase, but like, come on now. And okay, then he says, "You had me tricked for 16 months." Let's do a little math for a second, okay?
Okay, more math
So,
that we're not good at.
so, so, High School Musical, the musical, the series premiered in November 2019. Okay. Driver's License was released in January 2021. That's 16 months apart. So I think that when High School Musical, the musical, the series, started, him and Olivia were interested, starting dating closely after, blah, blah, blah. And then Driver's License got released 16 months after. So, like, and we talked about how I felt that like Joshua didn't really know what was going on and like why Olivia was so angry and all of these things. And he says, "You had me tricked for 16 months." I think that when Driver's License was released, that was like the end of the 16 months. And he's like, wow, I don't know what's going on, you know?
Oh, how interesting. I didn't
Yes.
realize that that was, like, the difference between the premiere of season 1 to
Mhm.
Driver's License. I feel that Joshua might have thought that they ended on good terms. But
I
then
think so
I
too.
think I think from Olivia's end, that she was probably like, like, "You did this, this is"
Yep.
whatever, you know? So I think
Mm.
yeah. the whole trick for 16 months is interesting because I feel like, again, when driver's license came out, it was like the world turned upside down.
Literally. Yes. So, um, oh, I when he says this song, this is or when he says this lyric in the bridge, his voice sounds incredible. But he says, "When your woe is me stops working, I bet your songs won't sound the same." And I think that what he's trying to say from this is like when Olivia stops playing the victim and blaming him and holding on to the anger from the situation, those songs won't hold the truth like she made them out to be in the first place. And
Hmm.
maybe people are going to find flaws in them like later on, which I think is really interesting because he's basically saying, like, you played the victim for so long, but like, what about me? Like, what about my feelings, like whatever. I just she didn't really take responsibility for anything and like the aftermath of it, and I think this is his way of saying that like when you take responsibility you'll realize you're wrong in the anger that you were feeling. And so I think maybe she just hadn't fully processed it or something. But what are your thoughts on that?
No, I think that's a really good way to look at it because, again, we'll never get the full story, but I wouldn't be surprised to maybe eventually find out that that is what happened on on her end, right? Because, again, too,
Yeah.
it's like, well, if Joshua was tricked for 16 months, then like what was she
Hmm.
even thinking, during and after the relationship? And again, too, people cope differently when they break up and like they
Yeah, of
process things
course.
differently. So it's like,
Hmm.
I think it's interesting to see what will happen and if she'll do. I'm not expecting her to do, like a Taylor Swift, whereas,
Hmm.
her some of the songs on Sparks Fly, on Taylor Swift's album Sparks Fly. I think it's Speak Now. Sorry. I love Sparks Fly, by the way. But it's called Speak Now. It's kind of, I don't want to say aggressive, but it's like definitely direct. And I feel like if
Sure.
you listen to Taylor Swift's, like Evermore, you can definitely see in the lyrics that like her mindset has changed. And again, I think it takes
Sure.
time, but
Yeah, 100%.
I think she'll
All you
definitely get there. She'll make a circle. Olivia will make a circle.
Well, I agree. I think how you feel right after a breakup is not the same you feel about it 1 week, a month, a year down the line.
Hmm.
So, definitely no fault of anyone. Like we keep saying, we don't know the situation. It's just interesting the perspectives that we're getting like through the music from both of them
Yes.
at where they were, because obviously they were written far apart, and so they're at different parts in like the processing process.
Yes.
Did that make
Yes,
sense?
it does.
I don't
It
think.
does.
Okay. Anyways. Um, and then basically the last line of the bridge in Secret says, "The truth you can't deny changed everything. Oh, you can't hide behind what's clear as day." He's basically saying the truth will come out and it's not going to make her look very good. I think that's what he's trying to say. Um, and I think that he's saying that, like, maybe once he releases his music and now that he's finally saying his side of the story, maybe people will finally view their breakup more objectively, I guess. You know what I mean?
Yes. And that reminds me of what he mentioned on Zach's podcast is that he is very, very, thoughtful and aware of what he sings and how he affects people, and basically
Mhm.
how he is kind of protecting them. Like, he doesn't want to call them out directly. And
Yeah.
that kind of made me angry just because it's like you you don't owe them that protection.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I mean, like, okay, well, that's like my opinion, right? Because it's,
Okay.
I mean, in hindsight, if you look at all the things that had happened to him, those were the people who didn't think of his well-being and didn't care to
Yeah.
protect him. And so I'm just like, well, then why are you protecting them in return when they clearly did nothing for you? And I think I think in relation to like the bridge, you know, I feel like he's
Yeah.
calling someone out specifically, but at the same time he is not. Which like again makes me
Yeah.
really frustrated because I'm just like, okay, well tell me more. Tell me more.
Yeah, and I totally get what you're saying. I think from my perspective, I feel like it's him trying to not let anyone get the amount of hate that he got. And I don't think he's big on like, if you did this to me, then I'm gonna do it to you. But I also think like you can be a little more blunt
Yeah.
than you were. Like you can give me a little more.
Yeah.
You okay? But that's basically what I had for that song. Besides like what I mentioned earlier, I think the end of the song is just brilliant. I think that the instruments, the way he sings, the way it's layered, the music video, which I'm gonna talk about now, I just think that like I just genuinely think it's just so good. I'm literally obsessed with the song. So
Yeah, I think Secrets might be my favorite on his EP. It's just so
Mhm.
it's like a masterpiece.
I think so too. I'm really stuck between it and Set Me
Mhm.
Free, but they also have such different vibes that like it's hard to
Yes.
compare, but Secrets I listen to every day, like no joke. If I'm not in his top 1% of Spotify listeners this year, then I will be absolutely shocked. Okay. So, diving into the music video. So, like we talked about, immediately you get the shot of him climbing out of the car in the driveway, which references driver's license, and it's a blonde girl, but we know it's talking about Olivia. I okay, I like to read into things. If there's anything that people listening should know, okay, well actually they don't need to know this, but I read into things a little too much. Sometimes I take things personally. I'm working on it. 2022, we're learning, we're improving ourselves. But I really read into everything. So I apologize if I'm looking into this music video too deep. But so basically, one of the first things he does is he goes into the house and he looks inside and then knocks in the door to try to get in. And then eventually he just walks in. I feel like maybe it could symbolize him trying to like get some answers because again, he had no idea why Olivia was so upset or like what even happened. You know what I mean? It's like he's trying to figure it out and then he's like, no, I'm just gonna do what I need to do. And like I mentioned before, Olivia hasn't spoken to him since driver's license came out. And so I think like that just symbolizes him finally going into the situation and like trying to figure out like what the heck
Oh my
happened.
god, I love that theory because, like, if you think about it, right, he's, like, knocking on the door trying to get answers, and he walks into an
Yes.
empty house with no
Yes,
evidence
exactly.
because she hasn't freaking talked to
Yes,
him in so long. So he's, like, trying to
exactly.
piece things, and then, like, you obviously see that blonde girl in the background in some shots, but, like, that's all that we get, but that's all that he
Yes.
gets too in, like, trying to figure out what
Mhm.
happened. Oh my god, I love that.
So I was like, okay, this is just a little note I have to mention. It's kind of like your pink suit thing. In the second verse, he walks into the kitchen and he rolls up his sleeves and he takes off his jacket. And I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is,
I'm
but it did something to me. I had some type of reaction. And I mean, wow. I
I'm
mean, wow.
so happy you mentioned it because I literally, like, I was my jaw was dropped when I watched that in the music video because I
Yeah.
was like, "Why was that so attractive? Like, for what? Like, what?"
For what? Literally. Hey, literally, I don't look like that when I roll up my sleeves. Like, who looks like that when they're taking off a jacket? Like,
Exactly.
hello? Oh my God. Like, okay, so during the line, when he says, "You had me tricked for 16 months," like we talked about, in the background, you see the girl, like the blonde girl, with someone else in the background kissing and then running off. And like to me, this confirms that someone cheated on him or like did something like that. But if the song is about Olivia, then that leads me to believe that maybe it's about Olivia, but I don't want to speculate. I feel, well, I just did speculate. That's what I'm literally doing. Whatever. I do want to speculate actually. Um but I don't know. I feel like something might have happened there, but I'm not
No,
sure.
I agree. Like something just like doesn't sit right. That's the thing. And like it's so hard because again, to this song just like I just want all the details. Like you need to give it to me and it's
Yes.
so hard cuz it's like yeah, maybe something did happen. Like I think the reason why I, like, love music videos so much is because, like, they obviously give a different meaning beyond the lyrics, and they wouldn't put that
Mhm,
little snippet in of the blonde girl in the background for
mhm.
nothing, right? It's like you have a
Yes.
budget, you gotta work within that, you have a creative direction, you also gotta work within that. It's like there is a very particular reason why they decided to add that in, and I just wanna know why, because, like, maybe Joshua did get cheated on, like, I don't know.
I know. It's that, the more we're talking, the more I'm getting what you're saying about being frustrated, because now I want to know
I mean,
everything,
I love the
and I never
song.
will. Oh my god,
Yeah.
same. Like, it's so good. Um okay. So here's another thing I read a little bit too much into. But so when he goes, I think it's during the second chorus, when he goes into the room and he starts playing with the band. So something I noticed that is really interesting. He seems really uncertain when he starts playing with them, which I'm like, okay. I'm wondering if that's like meant to show his fear about sharing his side of the story, and like maybe that uncertainty that he shows on his face is like him kind of like being uncertain about sharing that, because as the song goes, it gets more and more intense, and it's like he gets more attitude about it. And so I feel like maybe that's the beginning of when he's like willing to share that. And then also I'm wondering, maybe the band represented people in his life who stood by him and knew what was going on, but also none of the band was looking at him while they were playing. They were all like facing backwards and he was facing forward. So I just want to hear your thoughts on that, because I got two different vibes from that. And so I'm curious what you think that might mean.
Yes, I'm happy you brought this up because I remember literally watching it and being like, why are you so hesitant? Like, this is so weird. It's like getting to the climax. Like, it's like the beat is like so good. And I'm
Yes.
just like watching this. I'm like, why does this scene feel so weird? And then it was then that I realized that one, Joshua was hesitant. I was like, okay, I think that's acting.
Mhm.
And two, no one is looking at him in the back. And I was like, oh, holy shit. I was like, oh my
Literally.
God, this is like definitely on purpose. Again, it's like the blind girl in the back,
Yep.
this band definitely on purpose too. And as you were speaking, I was thinking of a different theory too because I didn't really have a theory until I heard yours, but I think it might be like maybe right he knows who this person's secret, right? And everyone else knows, right? He does and then all of their friends. But maybe the
Mhm.
band is to represent that like maybe he's like speaking the secret out loud and even though everyone around him and the person who has a secret knows, no one is going to back him up,
Mhm.
right? Everyone's going to turn a blind eye to it. So that even if he does say the secret, no one's going to believe him because no, no one's
Yes,
supporting
that's
him,
it.
no one is like
That's
yeah,
it.
they're playing the band to
You're
support
right.
you and you're like your drum line,
Because because literally everyone unfollowed him on Instagram. Selena, you got it. That's it. Oh my god. Oh my gosh, you're right. Poor
like maybe yeah,
Joshua.
like yes, he's in a band.
Does he have anyone on his side? Oh my
Exactly, right? Like,
gosh.
yeah, he has a band, yeah, he has friends, all this stuff, but, like, is anyone really gonna really support him? And I think that's why he's, like, really
Yeah.
hesitant because he's like, "Yeah, I know your secret. All of these people know your secret, but, like, I don't think anyone's gonna believe me." That yeah.
I don't know about you guys listening, but my mind was just blown. And now I have to move on. Wow, I'm going to be thinking about that for a long time. Okay. So the next big thing that happens is when he like walks into that big room kind of towards the end, when he sees this girl standing there alone. And I'm just like, okay. I don't know if that like maybe represented Olivia when Driver's License came out, and it's like showing her true colors to him. I don't really know. I just think that it's such a significant shot, and the way that like the girl like looks at him almost looks like timid about like facing him. And so I don't know. I want to hear your thoughts about that again, but I just thought it was really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, oh god, I love the bridge into the last chorus. It's literally so epic, like,
Oh,
oh my god. Um,
yes, literally
but
so
yeah,
epic.
no, I think it's interesting because I want to say that it's him imagining that if he went up against this person, I don't wanna say, like, up against, like, they're gonna fight. I'm saying, like,
Oh,
if they
yeah.
see each other and they have a chance to finally talk, this is his moment that he's, like, reenacting in his head of, like, this is what would happen. She would be there, I think maybe timid, right?
Mhm.
Maybe very fully aware
Yeah.
of, like, what she did to him, and for some reason I think when he finally gets through the bridge into the final chorus, there's like more
Mm,
strength to him compared to at the beginning of the
okay.
music video. And I feel like if he were
Mhm.
to finally talk to this person, he would he would speak his mind and like really like good for him that
Sure.
he would be able to do that. If that makes sense.
No, I think that makes a lot of sense. Um, okay. So, the beginning of the last chorus, when he is speaking the chorus to the girl, the way that he is like wagging his finger and making eye contact with her, the power, it's like, yes, it's so good. I think he's so Oh, I'm far away from my microphone. He's just so attractive in that moment. I
It's
literally can't
like
stand it,
it's like
truly.
threatening in the most attractive way, right?
Yes, literally. Yes, yes, it's like a moment from, like, an enemies to lovers
Yes!
romance, you know what I'm
Yes.
talking about? Like, it's so good, so good. I
Also,
just
wait,
had to
want
mention
to
it.
say one
And
thing
then
is that I think
yes.
this is the best lip syncing that he's done at the end of the course because it looks so believable that he's, like, really being like, "Oh, yeah,
Uh-huh.
like, I know your secret and him and they do and da da da." It looks so believable. Good job,
Mhm.
Joshua.
Yeah. No, no, you're so right. Out of all the songs, that was a
Yeah,
really good lip
yeah.
singing moment. Um, but then he shows her the door by pointing at it, and that's when like the lights start flickering at the end, and that's when he starts looking confused and blinded, which I think kind of represents the aftermath of Olivia's album. But then the minute the song finishes, the lights like stop flickering, and I think that that's him being like, okay, I'm finally letting this go, which like I think is like the perfect lead in to the next song, which we're going to discuss in a second, which is literally about him letting it go,
Oh,
so
interesting. Okay. I like that theory. Um I I think on my end, I think I saw the flashing lights, I think, like, as, like, paparazzi and, like, media, which was kinda similar to yours, but I was thinking that, like, at the
interesting.
beginning of the chorus, he, like, knew the fact, right? Because like, he was
Mm,
so intentional saying to that girl,
yes,
like, "I know your secret, everyone else does too." But then the second that she disappears, all the lights start flashing, and he's getting kinda confused. I think for I like, in my opinion, I think it was, like, basically symbolizing that, like, the media and the paparazzis
mhm,
and whoever this secret belongs to, that person, they're all trying to confuse him. And basically, at the end
interesting,
of the flashing lights, like, he's there alone, like, he still, like, knows the truth, and, like, the paparazzi and, like, nothing can question what he knows, even though he was getting, like, a little worried or whatever, if that makes
interesting.
sense.
Okay, I
Okay.
think that makes sense, and I think honestly, you saying that, I think, and something I made a note of, that I was gonna say at the beginning, but I forgot, it's like so many different people listen to this music and watch the music videos, um and obviously Joshua's the one to write it, and he has, this idea of what it's supposed to be about. people can get so many different things from music, which I think is really interesting because I totally agree with what you're saying and I can see that. But when I first viewed it, I thought of it totally differently. And I think that number one, that speaks to the power of the music because I think to me, good music is one is like something that means something to people and that people can relate to. And so I think that the fact that we both got something different from it like shows that.
Yes.
But
Yes, definitely. I love it.
yeah, I don't have a ton else to say about this song, but I'm just going to reiterate that I friggin' love this song and I love this EP and I cannot wait to hear what you have to say about the Set Me Free music
Yes.
video.
Yes. So to conclude his EP, he has a
Yes.
third and final song called Set Me Free, but we'll start with the music video. So this is like I thought the music video was very different compared to Secrets, but it was most similar to Crisis, kind of like the vibe of like him
Yep.
being alone and stuff. And like, first of all, the beach was gorgeous, like, already loved it. And
Gorgeous.
his like attire is like very relaxed and undone, which again is like very opposite of how we saw him in first the first video Crisis. And I think
Yeah.
it just like sets the mood of just like vulnerability, which I really, really loved.
Okay, so as you're talking about the vibe of the song, I feel like it just feels very cathartic. It's like finally taking like a big deep
Yes,
breath.
oh my god,
You
I
know what I
love
mean?
that you said that because my next note is that, like, in this video, Set Me Free, and in Crisis, in the music video, he, like, purposely takes deep breaths and pauses, and I love it. I think it speaks, like, very much to the
Mhm.
vibe he's, like, setting and also, like, signaling or, like, referencing that, like, "Hey, I'm tired and done with all of this," you know? And I think, again, it, like, speaks a lot to,
Sure.
like, the vulnerability that he's, like, adding to these songs, which I'm obsessed with. And then
Agreed.
another little tidbit to go into all the things that we find attractive in these 3 videos. I this is my note in all caps. I threw up when he pulled off his tie, OMFG.
Honestly though, like who gave him the
Like, it
right?
did not
Like
have to be that
holy
attractive,
crap.
but you made it that way, like,
No, it
oh
didn't.
my gosh.
He I think it's because it is so laid back. Like it's just
Yeah.
Yep. I agree. I really
Yes.
agree with that one.
Alright, so then, he at one point in the video, Joshua is standing at the place where the water meets the beach, almost like it's, like, tempting him to dive in,
Mhm.
and he's, like, hesitant, like, you can definitely tell that he's hesitant.
Ooh.
Um, I was like I guess I, like, didn't have any theories, I was just, like, wondering, like, what the water represented, like, I thought maybe that it was, like, him giving up or, like, surrendering to, like, the things that, like, people were, like, saying about him.
Interesting. So you view it almost as like a more negative or
Yes.
like dangerous thing. Which I feel like I know you're gonna say something about this in a little bit. But like when he finally steps into the water
That's
and he
literally my
splashes
next
it.
note, Theoni.
Because because first of all, Troy Bolton who like bet
Oh
on
my
it?
god, Theoni, that's literally my next note. I will read it word for word. Okay, sorry. I know it's a super serious song, but when he splashed the water at 2:16, I could only think of Troy in High School Musical 2 when he sings Bet on It.
Honestly though, but I also think that like even though that's I'll never watch that part of the music video thinking anything else, but I also feel like if you're viewing it from like the perspective of it being like a negative or dangerous thing, it's like him being like screw you, like splashing it like I can like handle this. Like I can
Yes, I
take
saw
it
that
on,
specific splash being like he's just like so frustrated. Like there's so many things that are like out of his control that like he just like can't do anything about it. So I saw that as like frustrated, being like I can't, like I don't know, maybe like F you to all these people.
Sure.
I don't know, maybe that's what he was saying, but like definitely just being like frustrated. Okay, next thing, the pan to the sky was really long. Like I thought it was interestingly long that they had to decide to make it that long to like pan to the sky. And like I thought it was
Mm.
like almost giving us a tease that like he did surrender to like what people said to about him and like hid away and like almost like gave up, but then obviously it like pans down to him when he like returns, just because like he just like couldn't give
Mm.
up. And I thought that was like demonstrating the strength that he still has left, which I thought was like beautiful.
Yeah, no, I agree. I 100% agree with your like analysis of that. I definitely think it was purposeful because there's no way they would have done that for that long if it didn't
Yeah,
symbolize
exactly.
kind of what you said.
Okay. The last chorus, when that hits and he walks up to the beach, again, I like mentioned
Oh,
it before, it like feels strengthening, like he's like regaining his power,
yes.
which he like technically is because he released these
Yes.
like 3 songs about his side of the story and just like regaining that control that like he may have lost or whatever. And I don't know, it just like made me like really, really happy to see that. And in addition to like the chorus singing
Yeah.
behind him and those like vocals, it just like made it like such a powerful
Oh,
moment.
oh my gosh, every time I listen to it, I get chills and just I think the beautiful setting, he's more relaxed. He's just like throwing out his arms. It feels so good. It feels so powerful. It feels like you're, like taking charge of like your own story because I know that which I'll mention this more later when I talk about the lyrics, but like, he's talked about some of the past, abuse that he's faced in his life. And I think that like part of this is kind of like the culmination of the Olivia stuff and this past like trauma. And I think it feels like he's finally come to terms with it and processed it and done what he needs to do for that and has finally let it go. And I think not let it go, but like come to terms with it in a way that's like meaningful to him. And I think that's really,
Yes,
really
that was like
powerful.
literally my last note as well, of just saying that like there's a lot of symbolism to this music video, which like I love, but I think it also speaks a lot to like the trauma that like he did experience, which like he went in depth, well not in depth, but like he did mention on the podcast with Zach Sang. Um but yeah, no, I guess I just want to like give a trigger warning of like abuse and sexual assault as Theoni goes into the
Mm.
lyrics for Set Me Free.
From the first line, I think it really goes along with what we've been talking about throughout the other songs. He says, I don't know what I did to deserve all this. I really, like you said earlier, I really think that he viewed the Olivia situation in a different way than Olivia did. And he really didn't he just didn't know what he did wrong. And I think the same thing goes for his past sexual abuse. I think he doesn't know what he did to deserve that, and of course he did nothing to deserve that. Nobody ever does. But you start to think that to yourself, when you
Mhm.
go through something like that. You think like, did I do something to bring this onto myself? Which of course you didn't, but like when you go through a trauma, I mean, you're just trying to make sense of it in your
Yeah.
head.
Yeah, no,
You
for
know what I
sure.
mean? So I
I
just think
know.
what a way to start the song. This one I kind of go line by line, so I apologize if it's a lot, but he says, I don't want to be rude or on the defensive. And I think he's just talking, I think that just speaks a lot to who he is. Like, he doesn't want to hurt anyone by sharing his side of the story. He doesn't want more drama. And then he continues with saying, but I've been going through it too. And I think that that's just him saying, like, it's not fair that someone else gets to be the victim for all of this when, like, he's been going through it too. And he's faced stuff in his own life and nobody understands what he's gone through, and he's been holding on to that. um and yeah, it's just hard when you see him going through all of that as if like nobody could hurt him, but like we talked
Yeah,
about, he's a
exactly. It
human
goes back
too,
to the whole fact of like
um
in that period when like driver's license came out, no one viewed him as a human. And it just like makes me so sad.
Yeah, honestly, it's really sad. And he says like, "I'd take it all back if I could." Like he truly did not
Mhm.
want to hurt anybody. He didn't. He apologizes for making anyone feel badly because that's not what he wanted, and he doesn't admit to anything because I don't think he did anything wrong. Like, and I don't think that he thinks that he did anything wrong. And I think again that's like a very a different perception of like how Olivia viewed it and how he viewed it. And then the next line he says, "And nothing I say will ease the pain. Why must I hurt for you to feel okay?" And I mean, who hasn't related to that line at some point in their
That
life?
line
I
is, like,
mean,
literally an arrow in my heart. Whoops, sorry. Um, arrow
l-
in my heart, that lyric. Like, it's just oh my god, like, that I remember listening to it for the first time and being like, "Oh my goodness." Like, I don't know, I guess in my head, I obviously knew he was going through, like, a really hard time, but I didn't know like, deep that went, you know? And, like, again, too, he talks in the
yes.
podcast with Zach saying of just, like, how he's been healing this whole past year of, like, going to therapy
Mhm.
and just, like, really processing all of this stuff, and it just, like, ugh, again, it just makes me really sad.
Yeah, I think you're right. Like I think this really exemplifies for him just how hopeless he felt and how deep everything went because I think with what happened with Olivia, I think that it caused him to like take that time and he had to look at all of his past stuff. And so I think it was very much a culmination of everything that was making this feel even more heavy than it already was. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no,
Um
definitely.
so I'm only going to talk about the chorus once because obviously it repeats a few times, but I just wow. I love the chorus. I think he's basically saying that like even though you did something, whether that be Olivia or his perpetrator or whatever, he's saying that like you can't take my power. Like you don't get to take me away from me, you know what I mean? And he doesn't want an apology because like he said in the podcast, he in quotes he said they can only hold to you what you hold over yourself. And to me that's him saying that like he doesn't need an apology because he knows the truth. He knows that like he's not deserving of some of the cards that he's been dealt in his life. And I think that's so powerful to finally come to terms with like the fact that like you get to choose how you react and like what you get from a situation no matter how horrible it is. And I think that's really really powerful.
I think it's just so amazing that he's like what? He's like 21, 22, and he's like already come to that realization. And I mean, obviously, he's not completely healed, but he's processing and he has like such a positive outlook. The thing is that like he makes it sound so easy that people like would dismiss it and be like, "Oh yeah, like
Ye-
he just said that like little piece of like wisdom and it was like good or whatever." Like, no, that's like super hard to come to terms with. And like I give
yes.
him all the props to be able to say that after the frickin' year he's had. Like, so good
Mhm.
for him. And I'm just like so happy that he is in a better place now, at
Yeah,
least.
me too. I think it's just a powerful message um about mental health and healing. And I just feel like even going back to like him donating like the proceeds to mental health organizations, I think he just handled this in a really really good way, which I'm proud of him, but I think it's also really powerful as someone in the public eye to be able to do that. Um
Yes.
and then just a couple other things about the chorus, even though he's hurting, he repeats that you don't get to take all of me. And I think the reason he repeats it so much, it's like part of him is still trying to convince himself of that. Like whether it be the people sending him death threats or Olivia or his perpetrator or literally whoever has wronged him, like he's trying to convince himself that like they don't get to take parts of him. And I think that's really cool. Um,
Yeah, I think it's like almost
but
like an anthem and like a daily affirmation
yes.
to like remind yourself
Mhm.
that like I like these people who have like done me wrong, they don't get to take that part of me that, that they affected or whatever. Like, you are still whole even though you went through X, Y, and Z. Which is like, again,
Totally.
another reason why I like love this song. It's like so beautiful, but it's like
Yeah.
so powerful in the lyrics and like what it says.
100%. I agree. Yeah, I think that's pretty much what I have for the chorus. But yeah, it feels very powerful, and I think the repetition really just like drives everything he's saying home. Um, and then, okay, so in the second verse, he says, I've been running away. I've been facing my fears. And I think that that's just him, referring to the fact that he hasn't said anything up until him releasing this, even though he's been facing all of these things behind the scenes and dealing with his past traumas, which no one knew about until more recently when he talked about it on the podcast or interviews or whatever. Um, and it's just like, in the meantime, when he's been running away, he's been trying to like heal from everything that's been going on, and maybe recognizing that running away from things isn't always the best way to deal with it, even though you can still take the space you need to process and heal. um and then he says, and nothing really seemed to help it. And I think that that's him just referring to giving himself distance to work on himself and process everything he needed to. um what do you feel about that?
Yeah, no, I think that's interesting because again, too, it's like when Driver's License was released, like, nothing I mean, he did release "Lie, Lie, Lie" and a couple of other songs, but, like, other than that, it wasn't he was, like, not gone or disappeared, but, like, he definitely wasn't as present as Olivia was, you know? So
Mhm.
I definitely think that,
For
like,
sure.
he took the time I mean, he deserved the time to, go away and process not only this relationship, but also what had happened in the past.
No, I 100% agree with you. Um, okay, let's talk about the bridge. um, so I feel like the bridge is just basically him saying out loud for the first time that he's finally going to take care of himself and do what he needs to do, and just really be a little selfish in that way. And that even though he cares about and loves people and wants the best for them, he has to be selfish. He has to take care of himself, and he has a right to take care of himself. And he's finally giving himself the distance that he needs from things, which I did see on TikTok that he unfollowed Olivia recently.
I saw
So
that too. Yeah.
I wonder, I didn't check this. I'm curious, did the High School Musical, the musical, the series cast refollow him?
I am not sure. I haven't checked since the first time we checked, which was, like, a really long time ago.
I think that would be so interesting to like look at.
Yeah.
I feel like they have. There's no way they didn't.
Again, you guys are all
At least
working
Matt.
together in season 3, so it's like,
Yeah.
I don't understand what is happening. I don't know, whatever.
um okay, so I guess the last thing is just I want to say again, which I mentioned earlier, just the last chorus really is just so beautiful. Oh my gosh.
I
Did you
did, are
hear
you
that?
okay?
The heck? Yeah, I'm fine. Hey, I gave our listeners a warning, so it is what it is. Anyways, as I'm talking about beauty, the last chorus is just beautiful. And I think the adding of all the instruments and him just repeating the things over and over is just him finally taking his power back. Um, and just really finally saying, okay, I'm letting it go. Next phase of life, here I go. I'm coming at it with like more knowledge, knowing myself more. And I just think the song ends really softly, which I think is just him finally like exhaling after everything that's happened.
I love that. That's, like, so, so beautiful. Also, too, I think Joshua does a great job of, like, building up these songs, which is, like, why the
Yes.
last chorus feels so powerful. The same thing with,
Mhm.
like, Secrets. Like, it feels strengthening, it feels powerful, and, like, obviously, he did that on purpose, but I'm obsessed with it.
No, I am too. I think in total, I guess now that we've gone through all the songs, I think his thought to release them all together with the music videos really not only told like a story, but really showed his growth and his thought process throughout the whole thing, which I think is really powerful because as, people relate to it, I think that they can relate it to their own growth and maybe like where they could go with their growth and things like that. So I think as like a little trilogy of songs, I think it's like just literally so incredible.
Yeah, no, I think so too. You know what I wanna do? I want to sing "Set Me
Hmm.
Free" in a cathedral, like, with a full chorus.
Oh, oh my
Like,
gosh. Can you
imagine the
imagine?
chords that would, like, ring, like, I that's, like, my dream.
Y'all can't see this because it's a podcast, but my jaw just dropped when Selena said that. I, I mean, the power, like the acoustics,
Yeah,
the like I was talking about earlier, like he's really masterful with his chords when he makes them dissonant and but like only for a moment, and I can't my brain can't comprehend the power that would
yeah,
hold. Like,
I love it.
I love it too.
And that's a wrap on Joshua's EP and all 3 of his
Oh,
songs. This was super fun to, dissect and talk about his lyrics and his music video. So I'm like really happy that we took the time to do it.
I'm so happy we did it too because obviously I just had so many thoughts. We both had so many thoughts and things to say. And, I think it's just again, such a good trilogy of songs. And if you guys think of anything else, even just for us, because I'm still so hype off of all this. If you think of something that we didn't say, I want to hear it. So either comment it on one of our socials, email it to us. Everything's at the hype the the hyping. It is kind of hype, yo. I hate myself for saying that. Anyways, everything is at the Piping Hot Pod. So email, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, all the fun things. So yes, we want to hear your thoughts and
Definitely.
suggestions.
And to tease our next episode, we'll be talking
Yes.
about the one and only The Love Hypothesis by Allie Hazelwood, which was
Oh,
a TikTok sensation. It's a romance novel. And
mm,
it was literally wildfire on TikTok, and everyone read it. And we are so excited to talk about it next
oh,
week or whatever.
I cannot wait to dig in. It's literally so, so
Yes.
good. So good. Well, thank you for listening. Hopefully, we'll see you next time when we will be talking about the love hypothesis. See
Thanks.
you later.
Bye.